Hey guys, this is Gabin once again. I'm gonna be showing you how to do some simple integer stuff, right? So we'll be looking at integer operations, right? So when you hear the word integer, what is integer? And when you hear the word operation, what does operations means, right? So let's go through it and see how well we can do this. Now, I'm gonna start with the basics knowledge. Basics knowledge that I'm expecting you guys to know. I would expect everyone to know what is integer. However, if you don't know, it's never too late to learn. I'm gonna share with you what is integer. But before I go to integers, oops. Yes, sorry guys. Before I go to integers, right? So what we're gonna start with is we have to know the order of we have natural numbers. Natural numbers, and natural numbers, what is the symbol to represent natural numbers? However, mathematicians have agreed on the natural numbers. How to represent the natural numbers, we can use the capital N, which is n. This is the set, that n or this natural numbers is a set of all digital number or digit numbers, or any number does not have negative or minus sign, right? Or no decimal point, right? Or fractions. Those are not natural numbers. However, integers. So the symbol for integers is Z. This is the symbol that represents integers, or Z is a set of all natural numbers, positive and negative, right? So this was our number 2. So we're gonna stop here. Now let's look at some example of natural numbers. So if we go number 1, examples. So we could have 1, 2, 3, and so on. However, for 2, we have dot dot dot, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. So basically this dot means there are other digital numbers, or there are other integers numbers less than -3, and here there are other integer numbers greater than 3. So these are simple example. I hope this makes sense, right? From here, now we understand, now we know what is an integer, what is a natural number. We can distinguish them. Natural number, they don't have any decimal numbers or decimal point or negative or positive numbers. They are always positive. However, for integers, we have both positive and negative numbers, right? So you may wonder, how can a number be negative? Well, we go into those concepts and what they actually means. It's not just being negative or this is negative, but we understand what it means. And operations, when you hear the word operations, basically what I want you guys to understand, really is operations. When you hear the word operations, I want this to come in your mind when it comes to operations, especially with numbers. So it's either plus, minus, division, and multiplication. Those are the operations that we know or commonly used. So those are the operations. When they say integer operations, is basically positive, minus, division, and multiplication. Basically, how can we multiply 2 integers? How can we add the 2 integers? And what happens when there are 2 integers? Right, we're gonna look at those concepts and see how well we can do that. Now let's look at some of the questions that I prepared for you guys. So I'm gonna pull down side, and I'm gonna wrap this off. Stay with me. Now, so let me just look at the questions. Right, so we're gonna start with addition. Number 1 is addition. So question number 1, 85 plus negative 96 equals to 1. And second example will be 6 negative 18 negative 6 plus negative 47. Right, so let's look at these two examples, because here we have got so what the first thing that you do when you have two numbers, you check the sign in front. So this is positive number, and however we are adding a negative number, right? So we have a positive number and we are adding a negative number, and the negative number is greater than the positive number. So the way you do this is, there are two ways that you could treat this question, right? So you analyze, this number is less than this, so you basically you try to ignore this sign first of all. So ignore that sign. What you do is you look at these numbers, the nature of this number. This is smaller than this, right? So what you could write is basically doing this. Okay, so you will know that this is the same as 85 minus 96. Now 85 minus 96. So as I mentioned, this number is less than this, right? So you ignore this sign. What you then do is you take the bigger number, minus the small number, or you take bigger number, you subtract small number from the bigger number, right? Or a larger number. So you take 96. So it will be 96 minus 85. 96 minus 85. If you don't know your numbers, it's okay. But then what I can tell you, so that's 10, 11, because we know that if we add 11 on this, it will be 96 and it will be 0. However, what you do, you take the big number. What you do, you put negative in front and you take the bigger number, 96 minus 85. And then here, what you get is basically, you get negative, and then here this is 11, right? So that's our answer. Now if we move on to the next one, look the nature of these two questions, these two numbers. So this number is negative and this one is negative, right? So two negative, when they meet, what do? Interesting. So what you do is basically the same concept. Let's rewrite this as, and it becomes negative 6 minus 47. And then what you do now, we have two negative. So there's two ways, but then I'm going to start with the basics one. The basic one is basically ignore the sign as I mentioned earlier. Ignore this, right? Because they are both negative. What you then do, add those two numbers. So if you ignore those signs, you have 6 plus 47. And then because there were two negative numbers, you put the negative in front. And then what you then get is, you have this, when you add this, you get 53. What do we do with the sign? Yeah, we keep the sign. We can't leave this behind, right? We keep the sign. And our answer is negative 53. Now, so as you can see with these two examples, first of all, we write this because the brackets, or these brackets, don't really mean anything much. However, they are very important so you don't get confused, because this is the beginning left. That's why they wrote in that way, so you can actually see how they are connected. We wrote the first line as 85 minus 96. Then what I did, the next line, what I did is I take the bigger number, because this number is positive. Here there is a plus that they don't put. I took 96, which is a larger number, minus the small number, and then I kept the sign outside. And so our answer was negative 11. However, for this one, negative 6 plus that, what you do take, because they are two negative, I rewrote this as negative 6 minus 47. And then on my next line, because we had two negative side, I took one outside, or common factor. And then what I did, I added those two numbers. And when you add those two numbers, you don't forget your negative sign. And so our answer was negative 53. I hope these two questions make sense. Now, let me do part 2, and the second part will be subtraction, and then at the end of multiplication I will share you some tips on how to recognize this, or how to memorize this, or how to remember what operations to do first, right? Thank you so much, guys.